Welcome, one and all. Today is March 31st, 2016, and this is Mastermind call number 68. We have two people in our queue already. Just a reminder, anything you want to contribute to the call, questions, answers, issues, there's no bad question, believe me. Anybody who has a question, there's other people on the call that probably are thinking the same thing, so don't be afraid to participate. Hit *6 and then hit 1 if you'd like to participate in the call, and then I will unmute you one at a time. So, Tim, anything you want to share?
Not a thing today. Just let's get to our questioners, and I will point this out that we're through the first quarter of the year with the end of this, and we've had a great year so far, and a lot of great success stories. A lot of people doing well, and very creative folks out there. We're loving working for you, and hope we continue doing wonderful things for the next 9 months, and it's the best year for everybody.
Amen. Chad, anything you want to share from a training perspective?
No, let's get started with the questions.
All right, excellent. We have two in the queue. First up, Jim Forsyth called me about a half hour ago and had a few questions, and I'm always, especially when it's this close to the call, I ask him to call back and share them with the group. So, Jim, I am going to unmute you. Can you hear me, Jim?
Okay. Can you hear me okay, Jim? I'm on the speakerphone.
Can hear you great.
Okay. Just to let everybody know, I am brand spanking new. If you hadn't heard that term, I'm old too, so it goes way, way back. I was listening to the conversation earlier. So old guys can get in on this and enjoy it. But I've gotten into the Chad's training tapes. I'm about through those, working through the letters, that kind of thing, so it's bringing up different questions. The first question I had was, I noticed on Chad's that it appeared he had his own, quote, company name, and then he had his real estate firm on the bottom of the letters. Just asking whether or not it's best to, and I've got several names in my mind. I've got an old company, Forsyth Homes, Forsyth Probate Services, Real Estate Services, things of that nature. Is it best to have your own company name or to just go with your firm name?
I think it's a matter of personal preference. This is a conversation that I'm having with more and more agents. I will give you some things to consider. So, probate is obviously a transitional, lead type, and in the future we're going to be bringing more things like divorce and other transitional type leads. So, I think having a brand is a good thing. But when you're thinking about what you want to brand, if you do want to have a brand other than your broker's brand, you need to think about, is it something I'll outgrow? What's my big picture? Do I think I'll be working with divorce and trust and people that are going into nursing homes, or am I just going to stick with probate? So if you are going to create a brand, be sure to create something that you can scale into. That you don't outgrow this time next year, because you're now doing divorce and probate and working with trust attorneys. So I think it definitely won't, I don't know that it really helps or hurts you to have a different brand. I didn't have a transition specific brand. My company is Corporate Real Estate Advisors, and I put the brokerage information in the footer of my letters just for compliance reasons. But we branded as advisors, not as realtors like everyone else in our market does. And when we approach every seller, we approach them as real estate advisors and experts who can provide multiple options, not just I'll stick a sign in the yard and talk about myself and hope your home sells. So that's how we did it. But we've had some other subscribers that have branded. One that I really like is the transition team, and Jeff has built that with the mind of scaling statewide, maybe even beyond that, and scaling from probate into divorce, into trust, into nursing home and end of life planning. So he can really grow into that brand. So just some things to keep in mind as you're making that decision. I don't think you have to have a separate brand. You could definitely use your broker. A lot of folks are KW or Remax, and they're going to go with that branding because there's power in that brand. So I think it's personal preference, but I wanted to give you some things to consider as you're making that decision.
Yeah, let me point out a couple of other things too, just along the same line. A lot of people get slowed down by trying to make a decision about all of this, and even though you may certainly want to create a separate website to land them on for probate, and maybe use one of ours to do that, because we provide you with lots and lots of content information and a great frequently asked questions area, and it makes you look like a highly expert person, and it also helps you collect information from attorneys and all of that. You can simply brand that with any kind of an ID that you want to land people there, and you can still build your principal brand off your main website. You can also construct your probate site in such a way that it does exactly what Chad said. If you wanted to build one that focused on transitions in your market, you could give your website a specific name that really referred to the transitional side. And then as we add additional services in your market, we can build out additional areas on that site, or even a different site specifically for divorce, or one for whatever that you're going for. And it often helps to take people to there and always have a link back to your main website. And that's what most people do who have a secondary site for probate or any other thing. They also, on that site, link back to their probate site, to their regular site, and from their regular site, they link to their probate site. The cross-linking helps you dramatically and shows you're really focused on probate without diminishing your brand. So it's just kind of your own choice, like Chad said.
A couple of things. This is Jim again. I've got a secondary website with KW, and I haven't even really gotten into designing it. So what I was thinking of doing now was making this my probate and or divorce down the road, other sites that would also be hooked into my main KW site.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what I said. I mean, that's what a lot of people do, and they actually make that work. And you can chat with Mark about that. Mark is our specialist for all of this, and he can walk you through the design piece and whatever you need to go do and help you with that.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm going to just go ahead. I'm going to check with my broker first and see if he's got any specifics, and then go on. But my second question was, do y'all work with the various investor groups? I know I have already found two big ones here in Memphis, and what my thoughts were was to whether or not I contact them first, go as a visitor and just meet some of the people, or how do y'all do that?
I always encourage. You're talking about a real estate investors association,
right? Like the REI groups.
Yeah, I would. I mean, there are. And what market are you in, Jim?
I'm sorry, I'm in the Memphis, Shelby County market, but the large metropolitan area.
Yeah, you guys have a huge investor community there. There's some guys on 1,000 deals a year. So I definitely encourage all agents to go to real estate investors meetings. It's there's 90% of the room are tire kickers or they're just getting in, but 10% of the room are doing deals. They're big time landlords and flippers, and they definitely are always looking for deals and to connect with agents. So there's one thing that kind of frustrates me about the real estate market. We've somehow we've always been divided as investors and realtors, and so many agents miss so many opportunities and vice versa, just because those two groups of people don't come together. So if you, as a real estate professional, you can get into that group and learn how their business works and learn how to provide value to them, it will help you in so many ways. Like especially, in probate, obviously, but when the market turns and there's blood in the streets and the price is correct, you'll be golden because you've got a book of investors that you can sell foreclosure homes. So you can really insulate your own business model by knowing those folks. And it's, I built my team in Roanoke on that because I came into a market where I knew nobody. And that was actually the first place I went. Even before I went to our realtor meetings, I went to the real estate investor meetings. And
well, what I'm thinking, I've got numerous, 3 or 4 or 5 investors I work with on an occasional basis. But I thought with, when a fire sale type property comes up and they just want to get rid of it, then I'm gonna need a handful of people that I can just pick up phone calls. Say, hey, I've got one. Gonna need to go look at it. Give me a price on it. So if I go to these investor meetings, I can meet multiple more additional investors, and you could even bring those to some of the meetings from where I've seen it.
Yeah, typically they will give you a chance to stand up and pitch deals at some point during the meeting, usually in the
Correct.
beginning. So you can stand up, introduce yourself, pitch your deal, and I guarantee you when the meeting's over, you'll get flocked with guys with cash if you've got a good deal.
Right. Right.
Hey,
Okay.
Jim, did you find them on REIA.com, or did you know about the groups already?
I just Googled it.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, I've shared on the call before. If you don't have an investor, you need an investor because that's part of your team. REIA.com, Real Estate Investors Association.com. It's the biggest group I know of, and a map will come up, and you just click on your area. There's very few metropolitan areas in the country where they don't have at least one group and sometimes multiple groups. So that's a good way to find them. And it sounds like that you kind of reached them through Google. Sounds like, Jim.
Right, and even if you're in a rural market, if as long as it's, I would say most REIAs are in cities of probably 50,000 or above. But you can always Google the name of your city and Real Estate Investors Association. And if they're not on the bigger, national site, they should still come up in your local results.
Excellent. Then, Jim, you had a third question, I think, correct?
I've got a third one, yes. Of course, I know of clean-out crews. I've got people that can do clean-out. Of course, I've got contractors that I know of contractors and that type of thing. The main thing I'm going to have to be looking at is finding an estate group that could come in and take care of selling the estate, the personal property. My question was to Jim, do y'all charge anything for that service yourself, or do you just put the executor in touch with the appropriate person?
We don't. So when you're kind of in the marketing phase, before you have met and know the executor, we kind of pitch it as, we have an estate sale, like our team consists of contractors, estate sale companies, yada, yada, yada. And it looks like everything under one roof. Now, once you've built rapport and you've kind of put a strategy in place and it's time to get the estate sale company there, that's when I hand off I'll have the estate sale company call the seller, and I'll say, Mr. Seller, this Bob is going to call you this evening. He'll find the time that works to come by tomorrow and do the valuation. You guys can agree on price and structure. And I just hand it off, and it's pretty seamless. I mean, they don't really care, but we don't try to make any money on that. There is an opportunity to. I just figure it'll come back to me somewhere. So we give those referrals to our estate sale partners, and
well, hopefully you can get referrals back from the estate companies down the road as well.
And I would much rather have that than a little commission on an estate sale. Correct.
Exactly.
So,
one other quick question for Jim.
I'll tell you, Jim, before we move on, there is a really good website for this as well. It's estate sales, plural, estatesales.net. And it has a map search function. You can drill down to the county or maybe even the city level. And there are some of the companies on there are rated like platinum, gold, silver, which probably means they pay a platinum, gold, or silver price to be published.
Right.
But the fact that they're on a national directory and that they are paying to support and advertise their business probably means they're a pretty credible company.
Right.
In some areas, like estate sale companies that you find on Craigslist or bandit signs, they can be kind of fly by night, but that seems to be a good place to find some good credible companies.
Right. I just thought of another quick question. How about the signs you see around town that says "We pay cash for homes"? Would you write down every one of those and call them and start talking to them?
I would. So what you're going to find is I would bet you 80% of those are people who don't have any money and they have bought a book or a course or listened to a guru and they're putting out bandit signs. So usually it's either the really seasoned guys that hire somebody and delegate that out because it does work, or it's guys that are just trying to get in on these, no money, no credit kind of thing. So, but I definitely, I built a sizable cash buyer list by putting out my own bandit sign. I put out a bandit sign that said 2-bedroom, 2-bath, side-by-side duplex, will owner finance. And I put my Google Voice number on it. And I put over 85 guys on a buyer. And I had 85 individual conversations. I vetted them. And I'm like, all right, well, listen, that one already sold, but talk about what you're buying. And I got to know them. So I got to know how they value their properties, how they finance their properties, and I put them in the database. So within 2 weeks of moving from Hawaii to Virginia, I had 85 cash buyers off of one sign that I put in an intersection where the code enforcers, they had a hard time pulling it. It was up against the transformer and in a busy intersection. So you got to be careful with local sign ordinances. But
right.
So some of the guys that are doing the bandit signs are experienced guys, and some of them don't. They're just getting started. You'll know the difference in the first 30 seconds of the conversation. But absolutely, I would call them. I would know. I know whose bandit signs are whose in my town. I know who puts out which color and in what neighborhood. So you should know that.
Okay.
Great questions, Jim. Thank you. Do we answer them all?
Hey, well, I was going to ask Chad if I could use his primary value that he had in his letter as mine. I thought I can't remember it right now, but it just seemed like it fit perfectly.
Number one core value, provide value first.
Yes.
It's all yours, man. Live by it.
Yeah. You haven't trademarked that yet, Chad, huh? Provide value first.
I don't think I need to. Everybody that knows me knows that's my trademark.
All right. I think we're going to see that all over the country now. It's all yours, Jim.
All right.
Congratulations. All right. Thank you, sir. We got 2 more people in the queue. Make sure we get to everyone. And great questions, Jim. Thank you. And it was definitely worth sharing with the group.
Thanks a lot.
And we probably have time for another call or two, or question or two. Again, just hit *6 and hit 1 if you would like to participate. And the next question is the phone number that ends in 6604. You're up.
Yeah, it's Pete Iandoli down here in Florida. How you doing?
Hey, great. How about yourself?
Good. I just got started. I got my letter out. I'm a little further ahead than the last guy. I started making phone calls to follow up on the letter, but I'm just trying to find out what's your initial statement, I guess, to the personal representatives to introduce yourself. And I just kind of came up with something. I'm just trying to figure out what you guys say and pattern mine after that.
So your phone call is coming after the letter, correct?
Yeah, I sent the letter. The letters arrived on Monday or Tuesday, and I just started making calls yesterday. But I don't want to get too far into it and be saying the wrong things. I'm just wondering what you guys have used that have proven to work pretty good for you. And I'll just structure my calls.
Mentioning the letter kind of warms up the contact. It's not quite such a cold call.
Right.
So, hey, Pete, this is Chad Corbett. I sent you a letter last week. I just wanted to call and make sure you got that and you understood why we sent it. You remember seeing that? And if they didn't see it, you can kind of sidestep it and say, no worries. I'll just tell you real quick why I called. We actually have a real estate team built specifically for helping people who inherit properties, and we periodically pull public records, and we noticed that you're the executor of an estate, and I just wanted to chat real quick and see if there's any way we can help you. By the way, is there a home in the estate that you guys are considering selling, or you might want to look at the options for? And then I want to get that qualifying. So I want him to know who I am, how I got his information, what unique value I can provide, that I've got a team built specifically for the problem he's facing. And I want to ask, is there a home in the estate? Now, the reason I end on a question is for 2 reasons. One, I want to know if there's a home. Otherwise, I'm getting off the phone pretty quickly. But
right.
the bigger reason I end on a question, and I've played with this 1,000 different ways and found this to be the absolute best. By ending on that question, it's a relevant question to the conversation, but it kind of resets their state. So they're going to form their own perceptions as you're speaking. All right, this guy's a real estate agent. He's sending me blah, blah, blah. And they know what they know what their next response is, or what their response is going to be. The next thing they're going to say. People always plan a step ahead, but you can be 2 steps ahead and know you're going to end on a question, and that'll kind of reset their mental state. and then do not speak. Like after you ask the question, wait for him or her to speak.
Right.
Typically, what will happen if there is a home in the estate, and if you've confidently, kind of delivered that, what we call the probate USP up front that I just went through. If
Right.
you've done that, when you ask, by the way, is there a home in the estate that you guys would like to explore your options on, or is there a home you're thinking of selling? Typically, that's where, if they need help, they will break wide open and vent like crazy. They'll tell you all the details. They'll tell you how stressful it is and how much they haven't gotten done, and yada, 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 yada. And it's from there, the conversation can go anywhere. If you look under step 5 and subscriber resources on our website, you'll find a document called the Probate Seller Interview Sheet.
Yeah, I've got that already. Yeah.
Okay, so just follow that progression. So once I know there's a home for sale, and I've got them talking, I want to find out who are the decision makers, what's the relationship dynamic among those decision makers. Then I want the appointment. And I don't care about the house at all until I have an appointment. I don't even want to talk about the house, because I want to know that I understand the people, the situation, and that I have rapport with the people in this situation. Then we got all day to talk about the house. So I'll go ahead and set the appointment, even if it's tentative, and then I'll start really laying on the value. As we talk about the house and the personal property and the finances and everything, we'll start layering in our team members and our solutions. And by the end of typically it's a 10 to 15 minute call in most cases. And by the end of it, you're the only realtor in the world, because you've provided way more than they ever expected.
Okay. Now, when I'm going through the list and I can weed out people that maybe there's no property involved, or maybe they keep in the house or things like that. Is there a way to go in and modify the spreadsheet for the mailbox motivator folks, so we don't just keep remailing stuff to people that we can't do any work with? If
you want to do it that way, you would place 3 mail orders. So you would just place a monthly mail order and then upload your scrubbed list each month. What I do is I just order 3 letters one time and forget about it. And, I figure there's 40% of them are even more than 94% of that mail is just sunk cost, but 6% of it is going to get me a high return, so I don't care about that.
Okay. All right. Now, who at Mailbox Motivator is the best one to speak with? Because all I did was set up the one mailer, but what I want to do is, like you said, I want to set them up at the beginning where 3 letters are going to go out. Now, who do you speak to about getting that all set up?
And Mark is the person you're going to speak to, but I mention this at least once every call. Any questions like that, like Jim, the questions you had today, questions about the Mailbox Motivator, the best thing to do is just send an email, a very specific email to support@alltheleads.com, and just be real specific about what you need help with, and we all read it. And in that case, if it's a mailbox issue, Mark will call you right back. But
that's fine.
That's just a generic place you can reach all of us, and you'll get the most succinct and the quickest answer from the right person just by sending it to support@alltheleads.
All right. Well, that's all I need from now. I just basically getting going, and I'll give feedback as I go along here.
Awesome. Excellent questions today. We've got one more in the queue, and actually the timing's probably right. We got about 5 minutes left. We probably can take one additional question or caller. If anybody else wants to get in the queue, just hit *6 and then hit 1. And the next one, phone number ending in 6754. You're up.
Hey, Jim, Shad, Nate Arnold. How you guys doing?
Hey, good, Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Welcome, sir.
Thanks. We did our first mail out on Monday. I think it was to about 74 of the prospects in Charles County. Now, we then did the voice broadcast, and we really worked out. We got about 10 callbacks from the 74, which was really, really good.
Yeah.
So we have now set up a process by somebody who will be in the office to do that. How do you guys? My first question is, how do you guys? Is that something that happens with you all? And how do you, if that is the case, how do you guys deal with that?
You mean getting 10 calls at the same time?
Yeah, getting the calls when you do the voice broadcast. I mean, that's something that I see.
I let them all go to voicemail. So rather than try to keep up with it, I'll typically let everything go to voicemail, and then I'll do the callbacks in a controlled manner. If you're trying to take inbound calls and it's kind of impossible to do a good job for everybody. Just let them leave a voicemail, and a lot of them, sometimes your callbacks won't leave messages, and we'll make sure we call them back within the day.
Yeah, and that tends to happen a lot of times, especially if the numbers aren't familiar to them. And then the second thing, the email. So with the list, how are we looking with getting that information about the property itself, the estate property?
As far as if there is a property in the estate?
Yeah, because a lot of times what happens with us in this market, I try to establish credibility with the client right off the bat. And so my spiel is that I'll actually say, my name. I'll introduce myself. I'll tell them I'm calling and reference the property as well. So the list currently doesn't have the estate property per se, but I think it is available information. Is that something?
If you have to cross-reference systems, and because there are over 3,000 counties in the United States, it's not something that can be easily done. It certainly can be done county by county, but to properly scrub or probate an estate, you would have to scrub against 3,143 counties, because they could own a primary home in your market and have a secondary home across town or at the beach or anywhere. So what we have done, we don't scrub all the records for real estate owned at this point. And that's why you heard me going through that progression just a few minutes ago. We, let them know who we are, what we do, and then the first thing we want to know is there a home in the estate that you guys would like to explore the options on? And if the answer is no, then we kind of use that as a branding opportunity. No, there's no home. Okay, well, listen, thanks so much for taking my call today.
That's not what I'm asking about. And say if your courthouse researcher goes to the courthouse and they retrieve the estate information. The estate information will give the phone number, who the PR is, and the property. It will reference the property. That is the estate property, is what I'm saying.
Nate, if that's the case in your market, in most markets, they reference the last known address, which more often than not, that is the property, but not always.
Okay.
So if that is something that you know for a fact is included in your market, we can certainly look into it. Correct, Tim?
Look into what, Jim?
Well, he is saying that, Nate, you know for a fact at your courthouse that that when the probate is filed, they reference the real estate owned?
I know for a fact that they do it in D.C., Montgomery, and Prince George. Okay. I would assume that since it's Maryland and it's a contiguous county, I would assume that but I can't really say that.
What I'm saying, if that would be the exception to the rule, in the vast majority of counties that we service, they list the last known address of the deceased, and more often than not, it is the property address, but often it can also be a nursing home or a hospice or a family member's residence. So, yeah, I mean, and I've heard various estimates around the country. Agents tell me about 75% of the time, on average, the last known address is the property address.
Okay.
So maybe just start with that assumption that that's probably the address, and you could certainly ask, unless you see the same address 10 times, then you can probably assume it's a hospital or a nursing home.
Right. So So then we would be able to, you guys would give the last known, because I want to just make sure we would have to adjust our spiel based on the information that we would be receiving basically from the courthouse.
Yeah, right now we always provide the last known address.
Okay.
So because that's available everywhere.
Okay, all right. So that way we can just adjust our our messaging to the client. If you guys, if it's not provided, we wouldn't have access to it. All right. Well, that's pretty much what I wanted to do, and I'm still excited. Been doing this for a while, and just expanding is something good. You guys keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, Nate. I really appreciate it. You've had kind things to say about our customer support. I know you're not a novice at this. You've been doing it a long time. Nate was physically visiting all these. I think he was spending about 30 hours a week, or his staff physically visiting courthouses and trying to do all this himself. And thank you for being with us and for finding a better way. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, not a problem. We got one more call in the queue, and then one thing before I forget, next Wednesday is our monthly role play call. The first Wednesday of every month, we all get together and we do a role play call. I think we already discussed that a few agents want to talk about, feeling uncomfortable contacting someone who recently had a death in the family. I know that's one thing we're going to deal with, but any issues you're having, any roadblocks you're reaching, anything you just don't feel comfortable with, we all get together. We spend a good 30 to 45 minutes role playing, just like a typical role play session. So please put that on your calendar for next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And just the day before the next Mastermind call, and it's 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. All right, one more question in the queue. Phone number ending in 4141. You're last up today.
Hey, Jim, it's Jim again.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, I don't know, others might check it out, but in the Memphis Board of Realtors,
yes, sir.
We have the capability, like when I get my first list of contacts, I will have the capability of pulling that last known address. I can either go in by that address or I can go in by the decedent's last and first names, and it will tell me whether or not they still own property here in Shelby County.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, and we've had that discussion back and forth, Jim, with so many of our agents. Do you screen or do you not screen? And if you're in a market that gets 300 or 400 leads, possibly. If you're in a market that gets 30, 40, 50, we've always taken the opinion that you might be screening out opportunities because you just never know. Every conversation, even if they don't own real estate for some reason, we had an agent a couple months ago. She said, no, actually, she said the real estate sold, but, and the agent said, well, I specialize in this. Who else do you know? And the woman said, well, my mom's in a nursing home. I'm going to need your help. Give me your number. And she called back a couple months later and listed a different property. So you can over-screen and screen out opportunities, but if if he's used to doing it a certain way and referencing the property, then, if you start with the last known address, there's a pretty good chance that's going to be the property. But
you never know. I mean, the average inheritance in the U.S. last year was $176,814. So even the people who inherit that money can be home buyers. They could have been waiting for years living in a rental property, and their mom just passed away. And now for the first time ever, they're in a position to put money down to buy a home. So you never know how you might be able to provide value to these people. And that's why I encourage everybody, do not scrub your list. Have as many conversations as you can, because just like Forrest Gump said, it's like a box of chocolates. Like, you never know what you're going to uncover. And Jim is a great example. I mean, he didn't scrub his list in Southern Florida. And Jim, the one guy had a $1.2 million condo, a lot, and like 2 commercial out parcels, and they were all in different areas. So you never know.
2 listings and 2 really good referrals. So yeah.
Right. And about 40%. It's something we rarely talk about, but about 40% of estates include some form of commercial real estate. So one of our subscribers uncovered a $58 million hotel in California. So you just never know. If you're just scrubbing off one residential address in one county, you could scrub out multi-million-dollar opportunities. Just like Roger has, he has 2 out parcels that will list for $8 million, and he's the only realtor involved. Had he been scrubbing based on one single residential property address, he would have lost an $8 million listing. So that's why I discourage it, just because of the experience we've had and the stories we have over the last 12 months and working with agents across the country. So, at $4.50 to send 3 letters to somebody and to make a free phone call, it's a pretty cheap branding opportunity. You can pay $6 a piece for internet leads, and if you're lucky, 40 or 50 of those will convert into one. With probate, these people all something about them. It's the direct marketing. So that if they don't have a home to sell, they probably inherited some money, and there may be ways that you can help them other than listing one single residential property.
Well said, guys. Great call. Anything else, Jim, or I'll follow up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is my 3rd call that I've listened to since I talked with you that first time, and as always, more and more good information. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate all of you participated today. It's your call, so thank you so much. I always end these calls. First of all, don't forget, next Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern, is the next time we'll get together, and then the regular Mastermind call, 1 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. I always like to end these calls with challenging everybody. Take one idea, one thought, one thing that really inspired you from this call, go out and put it into action, and come back next week and share your success with us. Thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you same time next Thursday. Make it a great week.